So yesterday I told you that Megyn Kelly from Fox News was going to be interviewing the Duggar parents, Josh Duggar of 19 Kids and Counting, this anti-gay Christian conservative who worked for the Family Research Council and is incredibly anti-gay. Turns out that he molested numerous little girls, including his own sisters. And Megyn Kelly last night interviewed Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar, Josh's parents. I'm going to play some clips for you. It's sickening. It is immoral what Fox News did. Megyn Kelly went in and essentially coddled those who covered up child molestation. Let's go to the first clip where Megyn Kelly very sadly asks, how did you decide what to do when you found out about Josh molesting these girls? Let's take a listen.
What am I going to do? You're saying he says he's touched two of the daughters and you don't know what to do, right?
We didn't know, because at that point now nobody knew about it, and besides Michelle and I and Josh. And so we thought, what do we do with this information? And the girls, we talked to them, and they didn't know that anything had happened because they were asleep. And so we talked to him. We put all kinds of punishments on him. We watched him like all the time. Mm-hmm. I took him to work with me, and we just poured our life into it.
Were you scared, like when you went to bed at night during that time frame, were you scared? Were you worried? You know, he's 14, he's having this problem. What's going to happen when we go to sleep?
Right. Nothing ever happened like that again in the girls' bedrooms after that. Okay, so we had safeguards that protected them from that. Mm-hmm. But there was another incident where, two different incidents where girls were like laying on the couch, and he had touched like over the couch and actually touched the breast while they were asleep, and so over the clothes, and so it was a very difficult situation.
Yeah, they put punishments on Josh. We talked a little bit about what those punishments were. We'll talk about that a little bit later as well. Here's the second clip where Megyn Kelly asks the Duggar parents, was it really bad for you when Josh molested your daughters again? And the entire concept here, the entire atmosphere is that the Duggars are just these completely innocent, nice people who haven't been out there pushing their own views as the sort of moral majority, which they have while covering up their own kids' systematic child abuse. How bad was it for you guys? Here's clip number 2.
And when you heard that the behavior had resumed, describe what that was like for you.
We thought, at first that Josh, was on the road to men, at first, but he was still a kid, and he was still a juvenile. He wasn't an adult. And so there was a couple more times that he came and told us what he had done, and we were just devastated. Now, all these, again, this was not rape or anything like that. This was like touching somebody over their clothes. Mm-hmm. There were a couple incidents where he touched them under their clothes, but it was like a few seconds, and then he came to us and was crying and told us what happened, and it was after that third time he came to us is where we really felt like, you know what, we have done everything we can as parents to handle this in-house. We need to get help. And that's actually when we went to outside folks, and we asked some very close friends if they could come over.
Oh, so it was under the clothes too, but that was only for a few seconds, Lewis. And he told us right away. And those close friends that Jim Bob Duggar keeps talking about that they brought Josh to, one of them was a state trooper who did nothing about what he found out, and himself ended up in prison for child porn possession. That's one of the great friends that Jim Bob Duggar brought Josh to. Clip 3, Megyn Kelly asking, well, why did you wait? Why did you wait before taking action? Let's take a listen.
Some people have said, why did they wait? Why didn't they go to the authorities or go for the counseling at the very first time he came to you?
I talked to somebody that worked at one of those juvenile youth sex offender facilities, and he described how they actually take care of these situations down there, and the success rate is not very good. And so we felt like that going from a perspective of really reaching his heart first would be important, and so that's the reason we sent him down to Little Rock to work with this man.
Did
And that
legal
really,
ever pop into your mind? Like, we may have
parents,
legal obligations?
you know what? As parents, you're not mandatory reporters. The law allows for parents to do what they think is best for their child.
That's right, Lewis. Legally, they didn't have to do anything, so they're completely in the clear. Now, of course, you're talking to the parents of abused girls here. You'd think the conversation would be about morally, ethically, emotionally, but Jim Bob wanting to make it clear, Lewis, that legally they did nothing wrong because parents are not mandated reporters.
And he's right. It's a moral question, I suppose. But still, you must admit, a difficult one when your daughters are being molested by your own son.
Yes, absolutely. And then clip 4 we will take a look at here. Another question from Megyn Kelly, and this one is about the fact that one of the molested girls by Josh Duggar was a very young girl. Let's get the parents' reaction to that.
I know that the ultimate one, before you really got help, involved a very young daughter, and I'll avoid the age because I don't want to identify anyone specifically, but a single digit. I mean, what was that like for you to hear? You know, you must have thought for some time, this is a pubescent boy, I don't know what he's going through, but he's testing. But when it moves to a young daughter.
Right. At that point, that's when we pulled him out of the house and we said, he can't be here. And so we pulled him out, and then he went through that working with that man.
Yes, so he goes through the counseling.
Yes.
And then when he was done with the counseling, and this is not like a licensed therapist. It's somebody, a Christian-based.
Christian-based, but I tell you what.
Treatment facility.
It really had a huge impact on his life. Mm-hmm. And that was the turning point in his life. And this man really reached his heart.
And before Josh went away, you know, in the period where the girls knew, and he knew, and you knew, when you're living in the house together, what was that like? I mean, what was the dinner table like?
Well, we tried to make things as normal as we can, but also, you know, Michelle and I both were keeping an eye on Josh, you know, all the time, and watching his behaviors, watching his attitudes.
Yeah, I'm not at all surprised that a non-licensed therapist was involved, a Christian therapist. Those Christian therapists have a broad range of what they can do, Lewis. They can also cure your gayness.
Yeah, you know, I think one of the things about this is that when you are sending someone to a friend and one of these Christian whatevers, there probably aren't really any records of that, and that was probably a part of the equation here.
It's just all disgusting. This was a public relations piece for a family that publicly preached about morality, campaigned against gay and transgender rights, as they were covering up systematic child molestation. And Fox News concocts this public relations fluff piece to coddle them. It's disgusting. And then later on in the interview, I don't even want to get into this part because I don't want people throwing up over their iPods and whatever they're listening to the show on, because then Megyn Kelly turns the entire thing around into a sort of inquisition and indictment of media and of the police who released the records and all of this thing. This is one of the most disgusting fluff pieces. Fox News now doing PR fluff to defend those who cover up child molestation.
I think, this is a story people wanted to hear. Megyn Kelly was lucky enough to get them to do this interview. And so perhaps they just don't want to ruffle the feathers of their audience. They don't want to ruffle the feathers of the family.
Oh, I would love to know what agreements were made behind the scenes with regard to how the interview would be handled. I would be fascinated to have been a fly on the wall during that conversation.
Yeah, well, I think it's no surprise why they decided to do this on Fox as opposed to any other outlet.
Yeah, no question about that. Just disgusting. Send me your thoughts on this. I'm on Twitter at twitter.com/dpakman.